Good morning. Let's let these people find a seat. There's spots over in here. Welcome. Welcome to the 43rd Annual Young Writers Conference. 43 years. Going strong. I am truly thrilled to see all of you here. My name is Tanya Nichols, and once again, I have had the absolute privilege and pleasure to coordinate this event. And this is something I look forward to every year, and here we are. So, by the way, you all look great. And for my own purposes, I want to take your picture, so you just wave. Hi. Cool. This way I can remember it. Please note, speaking of pictures, back in this corner, we have a photo backdrop and 2 photographers. Make sure you get a picture before you leave. You can get group shots, get a picture with your friends, get a solo, whatever you want to do. They are back there and happy to take some photos. So, Albert Einstein said that creativity is intelligence having fun. So while you're here today, I know you are going to have a fantastic time using your creative voices and discovering some new things along the way, but I also hope that you have a lot of fun. This is a wonderful way to get to know other writers and to start to build that writing community outside of your own little world, so welcome. The Young Writers Conference receives considerable support from our campus and community, so I need to thank a few folks before we get going. First, I need to thank and acknowledge our president, Dr. Saul Jimenez Sandoval, and our provost, Dr. Zhuaning Fu. The dean of the College of Arts and Humanities, Dr. Nora Chapman, and the chair of the English department, Dr. Melanie Hernandez. I'm truly grateful for their support of creative writing. I think it makes Fresno State just even a better campus because we have so many amazing administrators and writers here. I also need to thank the English department staff. Jefferson Beavers is a hero. I mean, he does so much. Lisa Galvez in the department, she's not here today, but she's just a valuable support. And our editorial assistant, Yamil Moss. And I really have to thank my English 166 publishing and editing students that served as the editorial board for Spectrum. And many of those publishing students and our MFA students will be serving as your workshop leaders later today, and they are all very anxious to meet you. So all of you that have helped bring all of this together, packing the bags, bringing the carts over, judging the writing, thank you all so much. It really does take a village or a team effort. We also had a lot of very generous sponsors that sponsor awards and gifts, and those are on the screen. That's a different screen, but they'll be listed on the screen. They're listed in Spectrum. We also had 80% of the schools attending today sponsored in our Adopt a School initiative. So that was by members of the College of Arts and Humanities Advisory Board and community members. I am forever grateful for that generosity. Thank you all so much. Many of them are here today. I also want to acknowledge university student recruitment and thank them for their efforts. Leyland is right over here, and she has information for you. We put a card, it looks like this, in your portfolio, in your bag. Fill it out, drop it off with Leyland, and they can stay in touch with you about opportunities to attend Fresno State in your future. So, one more thank you. No, maybe 2. Community Media Access Collaborative, CMAC. They are here broadcasting this event, and so I'm very grateful for their support. And also I need to acknowledge that the keynote portion of this morning is funded by the associated students as an instructionally related activity. So thank you, ASI. And my favorite thank you, truly, is to the teachers, the high school teachers that are here in the audience. You are the ones that do so much keeping creative writing alive in your curriculum and also doing whatever it takes to bring your students here today. You are the teachers who give me hope for the future by encouraging the next generation of writers, the poets, the storytellers, the truth tellers. Teachers, stand up. If you are a high school teacher, stand up. So many people to thank, so little time, but if I didn't name you, know I am truly grateful for all your support. And here to say a few words of welcome is Dr. Zhuang Fum, the Provost of Fresno State.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fresno State. I'm so excited to be here with you. This is my first attendance at the Young Writers Conference. Last 2 years, I was not able to be here because of my schedule. So I'm truly, truly excited to see so many young faces and devoted teachers and Fresno State faculty, administration, and of course, Tanya. She has been leading this program for years and decades, and with her truly devoted contribution to make this a huge success for the future of our younger generation and for the future of the valley. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. Fresno State has a proud legacy of writers, including the Pulitzer Prize winner and the National Poet Laureate Philip Levine. And we have a room in the library, the Philip Levine Reading Room. That just indicates how serious, how proud we are in the area of writing for all generations, all ages. And that room is dedicated to him because of the honor with his writing. We also have the Poet Laureate Lab in the library to honor another National Poet Laureate from Fresno, and Juan Philip Herrera. So we do have two beacons that can lead us, encourage us to be good writers, to serve the valley and our community. Fresno State has launched the careers of hundreds of writers. And one of them is our keynote speaker today, Ethan Chatagnier, who is a Fresno State alum. I'm excited to meet this wonderful individual person in a few minutes. We value the power of writing. I know you do too. And we recognize the need for creative thinkers and creative writers in our community and beyond. We know you need to think first before you can write. So we do emphasize think and write. You know they go together. Of course, you need to put in your imagination. And we proudly say, at Fresno State, we grow and honor young writers. We first grow you and we honor you so you can grow bigger and fly high and far. And one of our slogans in the English department is, I just said, called, we grow writers. We have come, you have come and grow with us today. We grow with you. I learn how to write every day. I find mistakes in my writing and admire others who write better than I do. I learn on myself, but also by consultation with others, how I improve. This is a deed. We do it all our life. It doesn't stop. So we all remain young writers in some ways. I'm sure many of you in the audience can write better than I do, so let's grow together. I hope to see all of you again when you graduate from high school and become a Bulldog. Thank you.
And now it is my pleasure to introduce the Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities, Dr. Nora Chapman.
Yikes. Thank you so much, Tanya, and thank you, Provost Fu. You all should know that Provost Fu was an English major before he became a sociologist, so he is one of us. Thank you. We truly owe Tanya Nichols a round of applause again for her amazing, dedicated work creating this conference for you all, as well as Jefferson Beavers in the back for his indispensable assistance. We're especially grateful to Ethan Chatagnier for joining us back here at Fresno State again to share his wisdom about being a writer and a creator. Ethan is a perfect example of why Fresno State is such an awesome place to study English and creative writing, and so much more. As a senior in high school, he lived in Clayton, California, Northern California. Ethan applied to the Schmidt-Camp Family Honors College, which provides a 4-year scholarship with a dorm room. And he was selected as one of the 75 entering students that year for the President's Honors Scholarship. In Schmidt-Camp, Ethan made friends for life. I know this because I've seen him at events with his friends. That's what college does for you. When you come to college, I know you all have friends right now, but when you come here and you start discovering who you are as an adult, you will make a new set of friends that you blend with your old friends. You'll keep your high school friends forever, but these college friends will help you expand your mind and help you become the wonderful adult you will. They'll challenge you. They will elevate you. That's what happened to Ethan in the Schmidt-Camp Family Honors College. It happens to everyone at Fresno State when you become a Bulldog. In order to prepare for a life of creating, I hope you will join us at Fresno State after you graduate. As Provost Fu said, we have over 60 majors. You can become a mechanical engineer, a biochemist, a social worker. You can study interior design, music, creative writing. We have the major now in English. And with over 300 clubs and orgs, you'll never be bored. There is something for everyone amongst our 24,000 students to enjoy. We have awesome school spirit. There are many colleges and universities, but very few compared to Fresno State's spirit. So I wish you well today in your workshops with the creative writing students, because they're going to teach you how to hone your craft. But I'd now like to segue to something else. We're going to take a brief detour from the scheduled speakers so that we can recognize the wonderful Tanya Nichols, as this is her last year coordinating this conference. To do the honors, I turn the microphone over to the wonderful Kate McKnight, who's an instructor at Fresno State, an artist herself, a member of our College of Arts and Humanities Advisory Board. And Kate will be saying a few words. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kate.
Good morning. So, as Dr. Chapman just mentioned to you, I'm proud to be a faculty member. I taught for many years at University High School. Hello, University High. And I'm proud to be the eldest daughter of Ray McKnight. And if you saw in your program, today's event is dedicated to him. And I'll be speaking about him more later. But first, I'm honored to be a part of this moment. I get to honor you, Professor Nichols. Thank you for the 18 years you have coordinated this beautiful conference. And I want you to know, I'm going to turn this way. My father always spoke so highly of you. He had such immense gratitude for you, your expert stewardship of this conference. He saw in you the same passion that he had for encouraging writers, developing writers, and celebrating young writers. Thank you, Professor Nichols, from all of us, from before, today, and the future, for ensuring that this inspirational event continues and that it was even held in the pandemic virtually. Thank you for that. So let's all together congratulate Professor Nichols for a stellar 18 years running the Young Writers Conference.
Melanie. And now I'd like to welcome to the podium Dr. Melanie Hernandez, who's the fabulous chair of the Department of English.
Yeah. There's a little step down here for all the shorties in the audience, and that ain't me. So I'm like, I'm trying not to fall.
It's me.
Am I speaking here?
Yeah.
I can just yell. So it is my pleasure this morning to welcome you and to do the best that I possibly can to resurrect an old tradition at the Young Writers Conference that we call roll call. Because now that you're all here, we need to know who's here. We need to hear from you because this is a very interactive experience today. So we need to get the energy going. And so the way this works is when you hear your school name called, show me that you're here. All right? And so I have heard stories of like students getting up, jumping out of their seats, doing laps around the room. You can get up, you can do some kind of a dance, whatever inspires you. Let me hear you, let me see you. Let's get it on record. Show that your school is here. All right? And so, in alphabetical order, let's hear from the delegation from Avenal High School. Okay, that was a psych out because we have one delegate from Avenal who is attending via Zoom. So we need, hi Avenal, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here. Can we all show our Avenal delegate a little bit of love? All right. There we go. All right, so now for real. Our next high school, Career Technical Education Charter. All right, that's how we do it. Next, Corcoran High School. Corcoran, do you want to give that a second shot? Corcoran High School. Okay. East Bay Innovation Academy. Okay, you get love anyway. Where are my Edison people? Edison in the back. Endeavor Voyager Secondary School. You're small, but you're mighty. Fowler High School. Okay, Fowler's in the house. Justin Garza High School. All right, gotta keep going. For Liberty High School. There you go. And that's the spirit you're gonna bring when you're all students at Fresno State, yes? Yes. Los Baños High School. Oh. Yeah, I think they're here. Mariposa County High School. Go Grizzlies! Mission Oak High School. Welcome to Mission Oak. Porterville High School. Fresno State welcomes you, Porterville. Riverdale High School. Okay, good job, Riverdale. And where is Roosevelt? Okay, small group, great energy, love it. Sanger High School. All right, we'll let Sanger finish their lap, but in the meantime, I'm gonna call on Selma. All right, and thank you to Sanger. And finally, last but not least, University High School. Okay, that is the level of energy that you're bringing to your workshops today. Keep it up. You guys are going to have an awesome time today. This conference is a labor of love from all of the people involved. There are a lot of people who want to see you succeed, form community. This is going to be a tremendous amount of fun for you guys today. So welcome. Big round of applause. And now let's bring back Tanya Nichols to get us started.
First of all, thank you, everyone, for the plaque and the flowers and the love. I really am one of the luckiest people in the world because I get to do what I love. I have a job that I love, and I work with amazing people, and I get to be around amazing people like you. So I'm thanking all of you. So important information to share about our time on campus before we do the awards. Masks, hand sanitizer. While we no longer have the mask mandate on campus, it's still strongly encouraged. So because we care about you, we have provided each of you with a mask and a hand sanitizer in your tote bag. And if you didn't get one and you need one, just talk to us. We can get you one. Lunches. When you exit after the keynote portion, there will be boxed lunches outside this door. Just according to the type, not by school. And we've arranged for extra trash receptacles to be placed around outside the building for you to use because they, boxes, stuff, waste. And finally, it's time for those writing awards. This is so much fun. So as I said earlier, here's something that's really important, and it just can't be stressed enough. The editorial board had to work so hard to select the pieces to be published in Spectrum, to determine who received what award. If you are writing and submitting, you are a winner. You are brave. To write and share your work is an act of bravery. So I applaud everyone who submitted their writing. I also want to point out that Spectrum, the cover, is amazing. And the cover was designed by one of the publishing students, Samantha Martinez, and also a graphic design student, Denise Pantoja. Yeah. So really, really, really proud of that. It looks great. So whether your work appears in Spectrum or not, you are a winner for submitting, for writing, and showing up to the Young Writers Conference. Here to present the President's Award and the Provost Award, Dr. Fu.
Now it's my honor and pleasure to present the two President Awards on behalf of our President, Dr. Saul Jimenez Sandoval. The first President Award goes to Eleni Reeves of Fowler High School for her story, A Small White Truck. Congratulations.
Track practices these days usually go on longer than they should, creating more aches in my body than usual. It's a type of soreness that reminds me of my hard work, the ones that make my legs feel like weights when I walk.
The second President Award goes to Margarita Carrera of Porterville High School for her poem, Scrubbed Raw. Congratulations.
Your skin is dirty, how easily the words escaped from the silvers that were her lips. Her tawny blonde pigtails pranced for themselves. She hurried away, so I went home dirty. I was dirty.
Now it is my pleasure to present the Provost Award to Jude Hamada of Edison High School for his essay, In Remembrance. Congratulations.
Skin of olives, almond-shaped eyes, characteristics inherited by generations of Palestinian ancestors, traditional foods passed from plate to plate but were seen as odd to others. The roots of the fruit trees run deep into the homeland, each branch growing as the family grows.
It is now my distinct honor to present the Dean's Award to Giovanna Powell of Voyager Secondary School for You Were Just a Little Girl.
You were just a little girl, no one to help you, all alone. You were broken inside. You were just a little girl. How would you know when you were scared all you could do was hide?
Bernadette.
On behalf of the library, I would like to present the awards first award to Caitlin Woodruff, Mission Oak High School, Prose, Every Woman to Herself.
It is true, I have met the Sandman, the man of dust and dream, hope and harmony, love and laughter. I am his daughter. I have the sandy gold specks in my hair, harmony in my speech, and imagination that controls my surroundings. I glow in the dark.
And the second award goes to Caitlin Pedraza, Mission Oak, Flash Fiction, Their King-Size Bed.
My mom was a single mom, and there were 9 of us. All of the kids worked in the fields. I started when I was 12. We picked cucumbers, apples, corn, strawberries, all of them. None of us went to school. Nobody cared.
Dr. Melanie Hernandez.
Okay. Excuse me. All right, so next up is the Chair's Award, which goes to Ebony Adams, Selma High School. Her essay is titled The Wonder of Words and Faults of the Mind.
From mind to paper, writing has always intrigued me. The way a well-written sentence flows and moves through pages, all emerging from my thoughts, is one of the most exhilarating feelings in the world.
Kate McKnight.
Good morning again. The College of Arts and Humanities Advisory Board is made up of at least 20 community members, and this is my 7th year. I'm very proud to be a part of that, supporting the college and the deans, and I get to now mention and name the award winner that we enthusiastically support this award every year. So the College of Arts and Humanities Advisory Board Award goes to Audrey Reese, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, from Mission Oak High School for her piece.
It was time to filter, take everything out, and try to find the nitrogen intoxicating my social interactions. I found the kindness of sugar salt and its sarcasm, the attentiveness of sodium, and the compassion of calcium, all of which I decided to keep.
Her piece of prose is titled Nitrogen Infection. Congratulations. Thank you for indulging me making these statements to you this morning. It's a very special morning, as you can imagine. In 2020, to mark the 40th Young Writers Conference, Professor Nichols established the H. Ray McKnight Award, and my dad was so touched and so moved by that. My family and I thank you, Professor Nichols, for establishing that award and for dedicating today's Young Writers Conference to the memory of my father. I was a senior in high school in 1980, so yes, you can figure out how old I am. No, I did not get invited to come to the conference. My English teacher didn't bring me. Huh? What's up with that? But 10 years later, over 10 years later, I became an English and drama teacher. At the beginning of my career, I was at Roosevelt High School, and I got to bring students to the Young Writers Conference. You could have just, my father just was beaming with pride that I was here as a teacher and bringing my own English students. So today, I have such privilege and honor to not only support this award financially, but also to get to announce the recipient. So this year's recipient of the H. Ray McKnight Award goes to Sydney Mello Hayes of Liberty High School for her story, Dearest Son.
Some may consider rousing the continuous drip of their ceiling a problem. Their once rosy cheeks stained in grime, perhaps there is a miniature leak, or the rainwater has seeped through the roof, but Ensal has enough sense to crush her desperate hope. Constant drops of something cold and underneath her eye, trailing down her face like tears.
Can we give a hand to our reader this morning, who I did not get her name?
Christina.
Thank you so much for reading. And now, returning to the podium is our wonderful Dr. Professor Nichols. I made you a doctor. You deserve it, right? Congratulations.
I gave myself this pleasure to present this next award. This is the inaugural award of the Corinne Clegg Hales Award, or as most of us know her as Connie Hales. Connie Hales is responsible for the successful careers of many poets that came from Fresno State. She is the person who actually handed the Young Writers torch to me back in 2005. And I'm so thankful for that. It's been such a fun experience doing this. So this award is being established this year by an anonymous source. It's not me. And so the Corinne Clegg Hales Award for poetry goes to Alessandra Ortiz of Las Banas High School for her poem, Repetition.
The gloveless boxer is tossed against the side of the ring. She sees another blow come and feels her face start to sting. As the black vision spots come and she's dragged by her hair, her battered body goes limp.
Leonard Kazarian. Leonard.
To Mercedes Gonzalez. This award from the William Sororian Society is to Mercedes Gennaro Hernandez, Riverdale High School.
Then Liza stopped feeling the wind, and that's when the fairy told her to open her eyes. When she did, she was shocked to see a place filled with math problems, including addition and subtraction. Her mouth dropped open while there were some numbers flying above her head. "What is this place?" Liza asked.
Here to present the Mia Barraza Martinez Award is Connie Hales.
So, Mia Barraza Martinez was an extremely talented and dedicated poet and a brilliant student here at Fresno State. One of the things that made her so amazing was her deep passion for social justice and her belief in the power of literary creative writing and her commitment to using her skills as a writer to help make our world a little better for everyone. So there are two awards. The Mia Barraza Martinez Award for Social Justice Writing goes to Jude Hamada, Edison High School, for World of War.
I was born in America, but my blood is more than red, white, and blue. Lucky that I have a life and an education to pursue. I grew up with dolls and playgrounds, but others on war grounds.
And the other Mia Barraza Martinez Award for Social Justice Writing goes to Mason Roberts from Voyager Secondary School for Isolated While Isolated.
Locked in my cell, missing my family and friends, in my mind I have failed. I know this is not how it ends.
And the next presenter is the wonderful poet and coordinator of creative writing here at Fresno State, Bryn Saito.
Good morning. First, on behalf of the Fresno Poets Association, I will present the FPA Award, and that will go to Martin Gonzalez of Mission Oak High School for the poem Sycamore.
She is a sycamore, so sick of more, nothing new, well she presumed. Well down she felt drowned in the overzealousness of a man who left shades of brown, brown leaves left, creating fading memories.
And next, on behalf of the Masters of Fine Arts program, the MFA Award, which will go to Mary Johnson of University High School for the beauty of everyday life.
When I was younger, I didn't understand how people could just be, how you were expected to grow up, go to school, get a job, and then work for the rest of your life until you die. Is that all there is to it?
And now I'd like to welcome James Morrison.
Good morning. The first award is from the normal school, and it's for Anahi Martinez from Edison. It's Julius the Cat. Great title.
It was dark out, and everyone had been long asleep. The only sound outside was that of crickets, the wind, and Julius. Julius was a cat. He walked along the fence, wondering where the night would take him.
I might have.
Missing an award. Oh, nope.
Trying to give out other people's stuff. My bad. This is for the SJLA award. Felicity Chavez from Sanger High for Lies of Flora.
I step into the ominous garden, entrance warnings I'd forgotten. The path I'm following is warm and calming. Cold breezes begin to form. Flower bushes, bees have swarmed. The red of roses.
And the next presenter will be Ceci Hernandez.
I guess I really am short. Okay. Hello, I'm here to present the Levine Prize Award to Annie Bryant from Mariposa County High School for their piece, There Are Trees Here.
There are trees here, trees with thick leaves and dark branches. And no, not dark like the ashes left in a fiery hillside. I mean the dark of a silver of shade on a warm day.
Next up is Lee Lee presenting the Hmong American Award.
Hello, it is my pleasure to present the Hmong American Ink and Stories Award to Lena Lee of Edison High School for the piece A Letter to My Mom.
The last trip we took together was a cruise to Catalina Island. I remember stepping out on the balcony and staring at the ocean. The ocean was dark and too vast. It was unsettling.
Next up to present the Fresno Area Council of Teachers of English Award is Ryan.
Thank you. I'm a little tall for this. That's okay. So my name is Ryan Preheim. I'm here on behalf of both Edison High School and Fresno Area Council of English Teachers. So if you're a Fresno Area English teacher, Tulare, you don't count, so just don't listen. But if you're a Fresno area teacher, please come, listen to our emails, get our meetings. I'd love to see you there. It'd be great. So, first, from Mission Oak High School is Susie Ortega for her story, The Everlasting Smile.
My daughter was delighted with Vanity. I would comb her hair out every night in front of the mirror. It became a routine that we both looked forward to at the end of the day. After a few months, we got used to the house, the neighborhood, and our daily lives. Everything seemed to have fallen into place until that cold January night.
And secondly, from Corcoran High School, Echo Martinez for their poem, Villa Nayel.
May the stars at night forever shine till the sky falls and the moon collapses. Let the night sky with dreams prevail, for the stars hold the wishes of men, and they hold the hopes of humanity. May the stars at night shine forever.
And next to the podium is Ashley Rivera Garcia for the CWAA Award.
Hello, everyone. Today, I will be presenting the Chicanx Writers and Artists Association Award to Juan Samuel Garnica from Mission Oak High School for the story Cartas de un Hombre Muerto.
Mi vida colgaba de tus manos, siempre esperaba ser acariciado por la suavidad de tu amor, siempre te protegí, te amé. Era un hombre vacío que siempre quería ver el mundo de una mejor manera. Ahora estoy en un mundo de falsedad. Lo único que tenía seguro era el amor que yo sentía por ti.
Our next presenter will be Brandon Zhang.
Yeah, I am short, so I want to stand on the podium. All right, thank you everyone so much. Real quick, I just want to say a few words because I might not get the chance later before I present this award. I just want to say, if I can have everyone just give another big round of applause for everyone in this room today. That's awesome. I was on the editorial board, so I just want to say we got so many submissions, and I just want to say, and even if you didn't get an award today, you, like Tanya said, you guys are all winners in our eyes and your eyes, and I hope you guys all see that. And just being able to submit and have all these amazing writing done, it's so amazing to see and read, really, truly. So again, just thank you all for everyone for making it here, and thank you to all the departments, the staff, and everyone, and Tanya just for making this, alive and make this so, allow everyone to be here today. All right. So the award is going to be given to. I apologize. I can't read the Hmong part, so I saw for the name, so I apologize for that. I feel like that's really bad as coming from my culture. Sorry. But I'm gonna go ahead, and the award goes to Jennifer Lee for her poem "Executioner" from Edison High School. Congratulations.
The executioner holds the rope of loose laces while I lay my head in the guillotine. 16 years, the neck turns iron rust and forest moss. Before the sun comes to kiss the moon unrepentantly, I'll become an eclipse and come to rest with the stars.
Our next presenter is Dr. Samina Najmi.
Hi, everyone. It's my great privilege to give out 2 awards that honor women writers of color with deep roots in the Valley who went on to make a name for themselves nationally. So the first award, the Shirley Ann Williams Award, is named after an Edison Tiger, class of '62. African-American writer who went on to be recognized by Toni Morrison. And the Shirley Ann Williams Award goes to Caitlin Woodruff of Mission Oak High School for On the 60th Day, Flowers Bloomed.
My grandmother bloomed kindness. On her knees, she planted the seeds and made beauty out of dirt. Soil under my fingernails reminded me of the love I was to share.
And the second award is the Wendy Rose Award. Wendy Rose, Hopi Miwok, who established the American Indian Studies program at Fresno City, also helped to establish a similar program at Fresno State. And the Wendy Rose Award goes to Matthew Pitcher of Edison High School for The Way to Half Dome.
The granite slope reveals itself over the valley of Yosemite, east along the central Sierra Nevadas, known by the native people, the Awanachee, as Tissaak. It was given the name Cleft Rock.
So I'm short, and I will use the little stand that's here. But good morning, everyone. My name is Juliette Wallleitner, and I am the director of the San Joaquin Valley Writing Project, which is based here at Fresno State. And in the spirit of honoring Ray McKnight, I have to say that it was in 1979 that Ray McKnight co-founded the San Joaquin Valley Writing Project. So we have been here at Fresno State since 1979, which is kind of a huge deal in the world of education. So can we just give a round of applause to honor Dr. McKnight? And I have to say, I had the pleasure of meeting him. He came and joined us for our 40th anniversary celebration in 2019. But just a quick word about the San Joaquin Valley Writing Project. We are a community of pre-K 16 educators committed to improving the teaching of writing. And so teachers in the audience, if you are not familiar with us, please reach out. I'm happy to connect with you. We would love to have you involved. And so again, in the spirit of honoring teachers, I would like everybody one more time to thank your teachers for bringing you here today. Thank them for all of the work they do. So the San Joaquin Valley Writing Project has the pleasure each year of awarding 2 exemplary high school teachers for their work developing writers. And so the first teacher we'd like to recognize is Miranda Powers from Fowler High School. And the second teacher we'd like to recognize today is Brooke Dobson from Mariposa County High School. Thank you all.
So congratulations to all of you. We're going to take about 5 minutes so that we can get a photo of these people here and you can stretch your legs. Can I point out that we have a table back there? Valentino, raise your hand. Free books, free books. And Leyland in the middle with the red tablecloth, student recruitment, and at the blue tablecloth here, books by Ethan Chatagnier are for sale, both his short story collection and his novel, although you should get those after the reading. We don't have time. This is 5 minutes, but I just want you to know the lay of the land. Don't take off. Don't go far. The best part of the day is yet to come.
Called the fig tree, the ash tree. One poet's testimony, stripped of its elegance for the city to consider. In which of our 90 languages should I say that I love you? Which of our 250 different crops would you like to taste? To imagine its perfect juice. My trees involve dreams, stars, hard work, and good pay. For the ice worker, the tractor driver, the backyard gardener.
Okay, let's get started. I'm excited to hear from Ethan Chatagnier. But first, I want to say, shout out, many thanks, gratitude to Christina Sandoval, who did such an amazing job reading your words up here as you came to the stage. I love hearing your words out loud. And here to introduce our keynote speaker is Taylor Seals.
Let's see if I'll need this. Oh, I guess I did need it. Alrighty then. Well, welcome and good morning, everyone. My name is Taylor Seals. I am an undergrad student here for creative writing, and I was also a part of the editorial board, and I had the lovely chance to read every single one of your work. And I am delighted to be the one to introduce our keynote speaker, Ethan Chatagnier. To speak of his stories is to acknowledge the beautifully shocking and intelligent forces he reckons with. Chatagnier is a writer who works with intent powerful enough to lift his audiences from the unmoving ground and into the shifting stars. His latest novel, Singer Distance, published by Tin House Books, is a literary speculative work about a silent civilization on Mars, a quest to understand their mathematics and the emotional distances between people on Earth. Beyond that, Singer Distance is an infinitely sprawling novel that asks readers to suspend disbelief and dare to measure the distances on roads we'd otherwise never travel. It is an estimation for journeys yet untraveled, for gaps aching to be closed. The book constantly compels characters to consider the rules they set for themselves within boundaries once unnoticed, to search for the boundless galaxy of beauty outside those perimeters so that they may reach their true destinations. For example, in correspondence with a companion on a seemingly unreachable terminal point in the distance, one character writes, "I've never thought math is a miracle. The things we study simply are. They were the rules of the universe before we were here to understand them. They operate the world behind the curtain, whether we look behind it or not, but the rules are already there. Music is a miracle. It adds something to the world that didn't have to be here. Language is a miracle. Every sentence ever spoken and every song ever sung is a new invention. Not only do they add something new to the world, they transmit thoughts and emotions that would otherwise be locked within one person. I hear a song and feel something a composer felt 200 years ago. That's the miracle." Since reading Chatagnier's work, I've been grappling with the overwhelming feeling to look toward the sky more often, to trace the moon with an untouching palm and beg it to sing to me, to consider the stars an endpoint tethered to the beginning of my very being, to ask the universe for a cup of tea and a conversation. In the spirit and celebration of young writers, of everyone in this room who dared to close the distance between your classroom and this campus, your thoughts and your emotions, your pen and your paper, I will close my introduction with this last quote from Singer Distance. "A constellation is formed by points of light that are not connected to each other by anything other than the observer. You are a point in a great constellation. When you say you feel distant from everyone and everything, that's only because you cannot see that the axis unites you with your distant stars. And of course you cannot see the axis. You are on it. Perhaps you are it." And with that being said, everyone, please join me in welcoming the Young Writers Conference 2023 keynote speaker, Ethan Chatagnier.
Thank you, Taylor. That was great. Thanks as well to Tanya, whose tireless work has kept this conference alive so long and kept it such a wonderful event. Thanks to Jefferson, the hardest working man in showbiz. Thanks to the English department here at Fresno State, where I kind of got my start. I started in high school, but it was here at Fresno State in my English classes that I felt like I learned how to become a writer, and that as an undergrad, I felt like I took away a graduate level education in writing. Thank you as well to the teachers who are here. I know that there's sometimes pressure against fitting something like creative writing into the curriculum that is hard to do, that it's extra work. So students, please thank your teachers. They're giving you a gift that will last a lifetime. And thank you, most of all, to you students who are here giving a part of yourself to the writing process and the art of writing. I feel very honored and privileged to be talking to young writers today, welcoming you in and encouraging you on. So I'm going to talk today, I'll read a few excerpts, but overall my talk is going to be about inspiration and ideas and finding your material in the world. So you may notice the kind of weird map I've got up here. In the year 1877, an Italian astronomer named Giovanni Schiaparelli was drawing some of the first maps like this of Mars as he observed the planet through his telescope. He named some areas seas and oceans, not because he thought they were filled with water, but because they were just darker, shadowed areas. And he named some long pattern connections, channels. But the Italian word for channels, canali, was mistranslated into English as canals. And thus began, in certain corners of astronomy, a speculation that there was intelligent life on Mars. The loudest voice behind the inhabited Mars theory was an American astronomer named Percival Lowell. And he published 3 books starting in 1895 supporting the idea. He argued that the canals were giant engineering projects designed to move water from the Martian poles to the drier parts of the planet. It's a fantastic story, and Lowell was fantastically wrong. That wasn't known yet. The coming decades would not be kind to his ideas. Even a century later, in 2003, a scientific paper argued that the so-called spokes of Venus, these lines on Venus's opaque atmosphere that were observed only by Lowell, no one else ever saw them there, that they were the reflections of the blood vessels in his own eye. But in 1889, 3 years after Lowell's first Mars book, another book was published, H.G. Wells's science fiction epic, The War of the Worlds, a tale of invading Martians almost taking over Earth. And that's only one example of the tidal wave of stories about Martians that came in the wake of Lowell's speculations. A century of his theories being gradually shown to be more and more wrong was also a century of authors and audiences being more and more swept away by the fantasy of it. The fantastic story keeps appearing, from Mars attacks, trading cards in the 1960s and a movie in the 90s, to episodes of Doctor Who, and on to a Ken Kalfus novel called Equilateral, about trying to signal supposed Martians with a giant symbol on the Earth's surface, which sparked the idea of my own book, Singer Distance. Now, the big question here is how someone, myself, who considers himself neither a science fiction writer nor a historical novelist, wound up writing a historical science fiction novel. And the answer is that I fell in love with the idea of an alien civilization right next door that didn't care much about us, with a desperate quest to win their attention and respect, with the way that resonated with the feeling we've all felt, longing for a closer emotional proximity with someone in our orbit. A science fiction concept in a historical setting were where I had to go to tell that story, so that's where I went. There are 3 main angles that had to come together to make Singer Distance work, and I'm going to mix in these 3 excerpts in here and talk about the origin of these ideas. The first is going to be from the opening pages of the book, the thing I wanted to hit readers with even before Mars, the emotional distance between the main characters, Rick and Crystal, here at the beginning, impossibly close, but destined not to stay that way. As soon as I saw the light off the side of the highway, I felt myself falling in love with it. It was too far from the road to be a town and too high up to be a farmhouse. The light was the wrong hue anyway. We'd passed many roadside lights in this week of night driving, and without realizing it, I had become fluent in the language of them. This one was a word I couldn't translate. No town huddled next to it. No road branched off toward it. Its unknowability, its unreachability, compelled me. I felt the urge to veer toward it. Crystal slapped my shoulder and told me to wake up. I gripped the wheel tighter. and told her I wasn't sleeping. "You were drifting," she said without judgment. "Not much to hit out here." "Lucky for you. The only thing you could hit out here is a pothole, and those are in the road. You're assuming the space is empty because you can't see what's in it. You should know your way around that old fallacy." "I'm comfortable with the inference," I said. "I saw what the state looks like in the daytime." Crystal said she could drive since I was falling asleep. "No," I said, "stopping would wake the others." I told her again that I hadn't been sleeping, but felt less certain this time. I felt fresh now, set in a state of magic alertness, a headspace as clear as the sky after rain. I peered into the darkness north of the highway, looking for the light. I checked for it in my mirrors. It was gone. It might have been a dream, or it might have been in my blind spot. We were in an old newspaper van with tiny mirrors. The whole thing was a blind spot. We were on Route 66, somewhere west of Oklahoma City, sometime past midnight in the waning days of 1960. Our self-appointed mission was unknown to anyone but the 5 of us in the van. Ronnie, Otis, and Priya were dozing in the back, but to me, in those hours, there was only Crystal. I looked at her there, barely lit in the cab of the van, but still glowing. She'd started college at 17 and grad school at 21. 24 now, she was the youngest of us by 4 years. She didn't look it. Her eyes were young, and her smile was young, but light creases were appearing on her face. Her hair hadn't blanched, but it had dulled, some of its color draining away, even in the 2 years that I'd known her. She'd be gray by 30. My mother was like that. She looked older than she was, but wore her age well, as if the signs of it were fine accessories she'd graduated into. Smile lines were the best makeup, my mom said, and no amount of cosmetics would cover up a lifetime of frowns. Like fine wood or leather, she and Crystal were both improved by the slight sense of wornness. I did know not to say that to a woman, even if I thought it was a beautiful compliment. Johnny Preston was on the radio, but hardly existed. Our friends sleeping in the back of the van hardly existed. I lived for these nights, with no one but me and Crystal, the darkness of the expanse erasing everything but us. A road can be the connection between places, or the distance between them. And as deeply as I longed to reach our destination, I also longed to drive this one forever. I'd volunteered to drive the night shifts. I was a natural night owl, I'd said. They all knew otherwise, but no one else wanted to volunteer. Those moments were perfect, just the 2 of us awake in the pocket universe of the van. I thought about what I could say to start Crystal talking. I often said things just to hear her respond to them, not only to hear her voice, but also to see her way of thinking. It was a game I played with myself, to say something I thought interesting, something I thought I was interesting for knowing, so I could see how far beyond me she was. We'd been together for a year and a half, but I still felt the same need to prove myself that I'd had when we started dating. I'd fallen in love with her in our first semester, listening to her translate our professor's complex ideas into simple analogies so the rest of us could get it. The brilliance radiated off her, but she was so unaware of it or so used to it that she inhabited it as casually as an old sweater. The great unexplained miracle of my life was that she'd said yes to a date. I'd come to understand that I'd always feel like this around her, this blend of torture and rapture. Rick's love for Crystal in the book sometimes keeps him from seeing the world clearly, and that aspect of his character drives most of the novel. Some writers consider their work plot-driven, some consider theirs character-driven, some consider theirs voice-driven. Good work does its best at all 3, but usually one of them drives the car. For a long time, I've considered my work premise-driven. For me, the right idea contains the seeds of everything else you need, the setting that evokes it, the voice that resonates with it, the characters that inhabit it, the conflicts that they'll navigate, the themes those conflicts will display. Developing each of those things is its own work, but the idea, the premise, is what sparks them all to life. Rick's desperate love is there because that's what the idea required. He's the character implied by the idea, longing to be ever closer, longing to measure up. The idea created the characters. The characters the idea required drove the plot. Many writers hate the question, where do you get your ideas? but I can't shut up about it. You see, my most expansive ideas came at the time my world was smallest. This was about 10 years ago. My children were babies. I rarely left the house. I rarely spoke to other adults other than my wife. I rarely had free time. And in that quiet, insular world, I found myself listening to podcasts to hear other voices in the house, to hear stories that connected me to the wider world. I could do that while I was doing the dishes or folding what felt like hundreds or thousands of little onesies. And it was in that quiet space, my hands occupied with soapy plates, that an interview with the pianist learning to play some of the world's most difficult piano music became a story about a pianist challenging herself to play music designed to be impossible to play. That a podcast about seed banks and an interview about the challenges to future agriculture merged and became a story about an agribusiness conglomerate destroying the world's last seed bank. And a host of other ideas that went into a little note file on my phone, an idea tracker, something every writer should have. Whether in a phone or a physical notebook, it should live close to you for grabbing ideas as they appear and catching them before they get away. Bits of inspiration are, as Jeff Vandermeer writes in his craft book, Wonder Book, incredibly vulnerable to erosion by your environment. My book might not exist if I hadn't made a note to myself in my tracker in 2013 while reading that Ken Kalfas book, Equilateral, that said, what if there was a civilization on Mars, but they really didn't care to answer us? The seed of an idea there. That what if could easily have been forgotten if not for that note, which sat around for 7 years waiting for the right reactant. With this thread, I wanted to get at the unique longing that comes from being physically close but emotionally distant. Here we have Crystal's, in this next excerpt, we have Crystal's loquacious father, Carl, describing the painful background of the history of communication between Earth and Mars when Rick, Crystal, and their friends stop at his house for a meal. Carl went all the way back to the beginning, to Schiaparelli and Lowell. And I remember Crystal once describing him as a guy who had to tell every story from the beginning because he didn't have faith that anyone else could tell it to his standards. I kept an eye on her as he added his color commentary to the history we all knew. Crystal's posture was a barometer of her mood. Relaxed, she was languid as a cat. She slouched, she curled into the recesses of her chairs. When her mind was excited, she'd lean in toward whomever she was speaking to. Her hands would move in front of her body. But I'd never seen her like this. As Carl dove into the Soviet attempt of 1948, world history intersected with her personal history, and she stiffened into royal propriety, uncurling slowly like something drying out in the sun. He talked about Crystal's shock, her wonder, when the curtain was torn away for the first time. She was never the same after that, he said. Oh, come on, she said. I was the same kid. It's normal to get interested in the sudden news that there's another civilization in the solar system. She was always looking elsewhere, always chasing something. Can we move on? I saw the strategy behind her phrasing. Carl loved moving on. Enough about the failures, he said. Albert Einstein got a question from the Martians in 1922, general relativity. He'd already been working on it, and still, it took him a decade to figure out what they meant. He answered them in 1933, our greatest mind, and even he had the stretch to reach that one. Immediately, they tasked us with a longer, more complex problem. Crystal took issue with Carl's phrasing. More complex is actually more simple, she said. You have to get around your mind's ability to complicate things. When you can do that, all math is intuitive. Most of us can't do that, Carl said, so let's call complexity relative, the theory of general stupidity. Where were we? Einstein, Ronnie said. Einstein gave up, Carl said. He didn't throw his hands up in frustration. He just stepped down like the heavyweight champ he was. He thought about it for 2 years. Everyone waited on him. And he said he wasn't so young anymore, and his mind wasn't so flexible. You get too used to the way things appear. He wouldn't be the one to do it, he said. Carl grinned before delivering what Einstein supposedly also said. Heisenberg won't be the one to do it either. The Heisenberg quip was apocryphal. Besides not being Einstein's style, Einstein had made the statement about himself in a taped interview and hadn't mentioned Heisenberg at all. But Carl was having so much fun, I didn't want to spoil it, and I had an interest in staying on his good side. Einstein wasn't troubled by it, Carl continued. A Buddha, that one. Everyone else was. People started getting mad at the Martians. Mad, as all poor students are when a teacher pushes them. Why can't you give me a clue? Why can't you pop the answer in my mouth like a little candy? A student this semester, Carl was retired, but had taught the same course load he always had, and asked him why he couldn't round up an 87 to a 90. He'd plucked an apple from his bag and asked the boy if he could turn an apple into 2 apples. Even good students and great scientists were mad. Crystal was mad, he said. She wasn't even there at the time, but she was mad when she heard about it. No, she said, her eyes flaring. I was really, really sad. You were grumpy, trust me. She opened her mouth to object, but Carl beat her to it. 20 years of silence, he said, shifting his voice into a minor key. 27 now. They were supposed to be our neighbors. You can't blame people for feeling that way. People kept trying at first. The Royal Swedish Academy, 1935, Fire on Snow, those breathtaking photos. The Germans in 1937, their scientists knew they didn't have it, but the Nazis whipped them into it. We carved out Grand Falls in 1941. It was a long shot, but we weren't in the war yet. People still felt like we had to keep trying, even if there was a growing impression that attempt signaled hubris more than ambition. The blue was fading, every 2 years, a little harder to see. But then it would refresh every 4 oppositions or so, bright blue again, until it once again faded. No one knew why they were doing that, bringing the color back. I've been teaching long enough to know, Carl said. He sat up and cleared his throat like he was taking the podium. He rapped his knuckles swift and hard against the dining table, startling us. Earth, are you still working on this? Don't make light of it, Dad. It was hard for a lot of people. Her voice took on a defeated tone, her frustration giving way to sadness. I remember, poor girl, he said, turning to the rest of us. She was there for Lucas Holiday. Lucas Holiday broke her heart. We all were, Priya said. You broke mine too, I said. Mine too, said Ronnie. No one cared in 1941, Carl said. Everyone was sending their sons off to war. Everyone was fleeing a homeland with their valuables sewn into their clothes. This one, Carl pointed his thumb at Crystal, was a toddler. The 3 of us were living in a cold basement in Ghent on a potato a day. I didn't give a damn about Mars. No one cared about a telescope. No one had the time to look upward, especially at a planet that was like a woman who had stopped answering your letters. I couldn't tell whether Carl was really mad. He was practically spitting the words out, when a minute earlier he'd been ridiculing anyone less beatific than Einstein. You're trivializing, Crystal said quietly. Trivializing? Talking about the war? It's in your tone. My tone? You could be less of a showman. She got up from the table, folding her napkin neatly and placing it on her chair. The forced poise with which she walked out of the room was like a distress signal. I knew right away I needed to follow her. I did, hearing him resume as I walked down the hall. We were lonely. It made the whole planet lonely. This was another necessary idea for the book. The history of Mars communication needed that sense of loneliness, of lost love. That was the idea I held on to for years, waiting until it became something more. The crux of my advice to you today comes in the form of a strange metaphor, I'm afraid, but here goes. You cannot sit down at the page and decide to be inspired. You cannot summon inspiration at will. But when you find it, you can pickle it. You can pickle inspiration. You can put it in a jar and store it indefinitely, which technically is just canning. If you want peaches in December, you'll have to can them, right? But let's go beyond canning, because saving your ideas until you're ready to use them is only half the benefit. The other half is fermentation, the thing that makes pickled food so amazing, with the caveat for accuracy that store-bought pickles are generally not actually fermented. But traditional pickles, sauerkraut, miso, kimchi, sourdough bread, excuse me while I make myself hungry, they get their depth and complexity from being mixed with bacteria or yeast and left to deal with it. A sourdough starter is this amazing thing. You mix flour and water together, and you just leave it on the counter until it becomes alive. It bubbles, it breathes, it needs new food and water. When you take an idea and hold it, play with it, ask questions of it, consider the various directions and forms it could take, you can eventually reach the point where it becomes alive. Not your puppet imitating life, but something living and breathing on its own. The initial idea for Singer Distance, a society on Mars that wasn't interested in Earth, sat in my tracker for 7 years, not being alive. It wasn't until it was cross-contaminated with the idea of characters trying to measure up to Mars by solving their math proofs that the idea began to ferment. The premise got mixed in the jar with a couple fields of science that had long fascinated me, relativity and quantum mechanics, fields with strange, unintuitive phenomena like time dilation, experiencing time differently depending on your speed, and quantum entanglement, particles synchronize across time and space. These branches are so advanced that they seem mystical or magical, and they allowed me to create a similar mathematical mystery, one that could be a symbol for emotional distance. I'm going to read a short excerpt of Crystal, who's the only one in the world who understands this Martian mathematics about distance, trying to explain it to her friends. This is as they're on a journey to draw their own proof, and they stop at a cafe. As the rest of us sipped at coffees, Crystal started in on what we had been talking about the night before, about roads and codes and music. Think of a violin in its case unplayed, she said. The violin and the bow are the same matter when they're dormant as when they're played. When you combine the two, when you do so in a patterned way, you create a whole new thing, a thing that isn't matter. But it's not just energy either. It's energy that contains the shape of the pattern that was played, waveforms in the shape of the pattern. It's information in the form of energy, but also information that disappears simultaneously, that leaves no record or shadow or residue. The code and the music are opposite sides of the same coin. The symbols that can't be music on their own, the music that can't outlast the present without being coded. The curious language, their name for the Martian math, is like that. Hoffman-Eisen spatial mechanics, Otis interrupted. We've been through this, Crystal said. They had been through it many times. Hoffman-Eisen spatial mechanics was the technical name for the curious language. It was the name the academic journals used. It was what universities called their departments, at least those that still had a department. Most schools had let them atrophy in the last decade. Otis hated calling it the curious language because it was what you'd see in a popular magazine, a nickname derived from the earlier mathematician Florence Redgrave. Otis thought it was too bohemian, a frou-frou term used by people who cared more about poetry than math. Crystal never called it anything else. First of all, she'd argued, Hoffman and Eisen didn't solve anything. Just saying that something that doesn't make sense does make sense wasn't the same as making sense of it. More importantly, we didn't know what its creators called it. They certainly didn't name it after two middling Earth mathematicians. So if we couldn't know what they'd called it, why not call it something that captured what it was? Math was the universal language. But the Martian math wasn't universal. It wasn't universal because of us. We didn't get it. Otis forked at his pancakes. Crystal's confidence flustered him. Mathematicians had known all along that the last branch of mathematics the Martians carved into their planet's surface, this one far more advanced, reflecting the progress we'd made in our communication with them since the first 4 parallel lines, had to do with distance. The equation seemed to indicate there was no difference between a near infinite distance and an infinitesimal one. That distance did not exist as a constant, or not only as a constant. The great supposed breakthrough of Hoffman and Eisen was an argument that this meant distance did not exist at all, that distance was a construct, an illusion. That was thinking around the problem, Crystal said. That was important men deciding that if they couldn't explain something, it must be unexplainable. For months now, Crystal had been telling us the Martian math did not conflict with our understanding of distance, as so many people thought. It rotated distance to reveal a new dimension of it we hadn't been able to see yet. It was more like the played violin versus the unplayed violin. A distance being traveled is different from a distance being measured. So is a distance being traveled infinitely small or infinitely large, Ronnie asked. It depends which angle you're looking at it from. Ronnie laughed. Cute that she was still trying to explain the curious language to us. The better she came to understand it, the more convinced she was that the rest of us could grasp it too. She didn't get that she was drifting toward it, while the rest of us stayed stationary. No, she said, not wanting Ronnie to resign himself. Now think of a record. The code isn't two-dimensional like a sheet of music. The shape of the matter is the code. Rick, think of the musical road we were talking about, when no one's driving over it. But she'd already lost them. She'd gone through so many examples trying to get us to understand. Priya was usually the one to ask questions that probed closest to the bone, the questions that injected Crystal with a sudden enthusiasm to keep explaining. But Priya was quiet now, looking down at her hands on the table. Sometimes the enthusiasm was enough to make Crystal seem crazed. She had a fork in one hand and a syrupy knife in the other, and she was waving them around like an orchestra conductor. Ronnie excused himself to the bathroom to avoid the lecture. Otis still wanted to debate semantics. She'd even lost me in the sense that I'd take her word at this point on any of it. I believed she understood it, even if I couldn't. What I understood was that the measurable distance to Mars was calculable, but the distance of the journey there, to us, was infinite. I also understood Crystal's position. Being the only speaker of a language across an impossible distance was lonely enough to make anyone feel crazy. To connect this back to my opening comments and to extend my metaphor about pickles, let's talk again about what goes in the jar. A 2013 film adaptation. It makes me very old to realize that this came out before any of you were born. It's a postmodern odyssey in which the screenwriter, Charlie Kaufman, was struggling to adapt a book about a flower thief into a screenplay. And so he writes himself into the movie, making the movie about his struggle to adapt the book into the movie. So in the movie, the Charlie Kaufman screenwriter character tries to solve his adaptation problem by visiting a seminar with a famous screenwriting professor. And he asked the professor, "Sir, what if the writer is attempting to create a story where nothing much happens, where people don't change, they don't have any epiphanies, they struggle and are frustrated and nothing is resolved, more of a reflection of the real world?" The professor berates him in a profanity-laden speech I certainly can't get away with reading at a Young Writers Conference, but the gist is that every day, people are murdered, friends betray each other for love, people go hungry, people find love and lose it. If you can't find that stuff in life, he says, then you, my friend, don't know, to paraphrase, anything about life. Now, many of the items the professor mentions are tropes and cliches, and the screenwriter is right, that many of us live lives lacking in that grand drama the professor describes. In your writing lives, you will doubtless encounter, if you haven't already, the limiting advice to write what you know. To that, I say no. Infuse your writing with what you know. Infuse your writing with your personal selves. Create art only you can create. Now, although there's nothing wrong with writing strictly autobiographical or semi-autobiographical work, there is a great power in exploding small ideas about what self-expression means. A painting doesn't do anything when no one is looking at it. The experience of looking at art is about what happens to you, the observer, as you take it in. The experience of making art is just the same. The way you, the individual, write about something wild, translate it, draw it out, develop it, inhabit it, can be as much an expression of yourself as a highly realistic, semi-autobiographical story or poem or essay that you write. If whatever we write about is transformed by the reflecting pool of our inner selves, why restrict our gaze to what's directly in front of us? We talk about art as a form of self-expression, but I think its greatest power is that of self-creation. The self is not an object. It's not a destination. It's a process. We are all ships of Theseus, constantly replacing our own planks, building new rooms and towers, growing in new directions. When we enlarge our view of the world, we build new rooms onto ourselves. And that's our gift and our responsibility as writers. Now, this is typically called research. And I know research sounds so boring. What's really boring is washing baby food off dishes and folding laundry all day. So if you can build something onto that expands it, you're ahead of the game. Now, the professor from adaptation is right that there is too much going on in the world for it to be boring. Our lives, if we are lucky, may be boring, but the world cannot be. It's too weird. It's not just full of murders and betrayals, as the professor says, but of beehive heists, sand thieves stealing beaches, a secret group of activists stealing the foot of a conquistador statue as historical retribution, a swimmer being followed by a lost baby whale until it can find its mother, an unsettling abstract painting being slashed, restored, and slashed again 11 years later by the same man. Those are all true stories from the real world. Now, this is something nonfiction writers know better than any of us. Essayists comb the world for tales of strange places, strange people, strange happenings, but not simply strange or fantastical. Strange or fantastical in a way that resonates with something inside them, something on their wavelength, something that will harmonize with their own personal voice, something with symbolic potential. And symbolic potential is often its most powerful when it connects the grand with the familiar. I want to take a look at a couple evocative examples, both involving something very familiar: Main Street and the small American town. The first example is a place called Centralia, Pennsylvania. Anyone here heard of Centralia, Pennsylvania before? Oh, see one person in the back over there. Awesome. All right, Centralia was a coal mining town in Pennsylvania, whose labyrinthine complex of abandoned tunnels, mining tunnels, caught fire in 1962. When did the fire burn out? It hasn't. 60 years later, the coal seams underneath the town are still burning, and it's estimated that they may burn another 250 years. The town still stands. It's mostly abandoned. Only 5 residents still live there. With smoke and steam vents is the only sign of the long smoldering inferno below. If this story is a little worn out in writing circles, it's only because it offers such a perfect blend of writing inspiration. An evocative ghost town, 5 lone holdouts, a town ruined by industry, and the perfect thematic metaphor of a fire down below, underneath the surface of things, that cannot be seen but won't go out. The other example I want to share is a place called Fordlandia. What about this one? Anyone out here heard of Fordlandia before? All right, a couple people over there, awesome. Fordlandia was a factory town designed by Henry Ford to look and operate like other Midwestern American factory towns. The difference is that Fordlandia wasn't in the American Midwest. It was in the middle of the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. This was Henry Ford's plan to create a plantation and factory to supply rubber for his car's tires. The plan would end up failing, partially because of the imposition of Ford's own philosophies on the town. The American-style housing, the diet of wheat bread, canned peaches, and oatmeal, and that caused revolts among the laborers. Now here we have another American Main Street, but this one a curiosity, 5,000 miles out of place, stamped into the middle of a jungle with no roads leading to it. It was created through force of nostalgia, through force of will, a project of extractive capitalism and arrogant colonialism, and a failed attempt at an overpowering cultural dominance. It's a setting populated by American managers, South American laborers, industrial titans, jungle creatures, and mosquitoes carrying malaria and yellow fever. Now, these things are tied together with our history and our present in powerful ways. These forces, baked into a place like Fordlandia, open up powerful thematic avenues. Now, neither of these ideas may appeal directly to you as an individual writer. The point is that either of these ideas would be very hard to generate from whole cloth. They're too strange. When you ask your mind to fill in a blank, it reaches for the most obvious solution, often too obvious to make for great writing. The trick is to fuse your writing with the strangeness of the world, to find inspirations that fascinate you or wound you or resonate with something inside you. My biggest trade secret is that there's an idea mine. There is, in fact, an idea mining industry. There are people whose whole job are to track down and research interesting stories and give them to you, often for free. These are magazine writers and radio broadcasters, podcasters, and documentarians. They scour the world for stories at these kinds of thematic fault lines, and they put them on the phone you have in your pocket if you invite them in. For me, it's podcasts like 99% Invisible, This Is Love, Criminal, Fresh Air. Sources like these tend to put stories in my life that I wouldn't hear about otherwise. I don't see on the news or find in basic history books. But my mind doesn't have to be your mind. Wherever your interests lie, follow them, dive into them. Listen to the people who know them well. Learn about the history. Expand your view of the world. Dive into the richness of real life. Whether your goal is to excavate it real and whole or transform it into something fantastical. As I said earlier, making art is an act of self-creation. When you accept the stories of the world into your mind, you are not just pollinating your artistic imagination, you are pollinating yourself. And if there's one piece of advice I can impart to you more than any craft tip or plot trick, it's this. Take yourself on a voyage. Take yourself on as many voyages out into the world as you can. My voyages started at my kitchen sink, and they took me places I could never have imagined. All right. Thank you all. We should have some time for questions coming up, if anyone has any. No? No questions? All right. Sounds like no time for questions. I'll pass it back off to Tanya, and I will be over there to talk, sign copies, and answer questions, that kind of stuff.
Again, thank you all so much. Just a reminder, your lunches are outside the table. Your workshop location is listed in the program. If you don't know where that room is, where that building is, ask one of us. We are nice people. We will gladly guide you there. And I will maybe not see you next year. Bye-bye. Thank you all.